Hey, folks, welcome back to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Appreciate you being here. And today we're going to talk to a gentleman who's had a lot of success in business. The experience he's had, he's an investor, he's an 500 founder, business growth expert. I mean, he's done it all when it comes to entrepreneurship and business. And he's also got some, times in his life and, his family where there's been struggles and trials. And so we're going to discuss those and hopefully inspire you to see that no matter what you're facing in life, no matter how difficult things might be at this time, or really, if you're in a dark place and just feel like there's no hope, today I hope that you realize that I've been there, Tyler's been there, most of us go through those kind of things, and it can end and you can take control and reclaim your life again through entrepreneurship, or whatever. You can design the life you want, but you have to make that choice and be intentional and really understand that it's all up to what's between your ears. So thanks for being here, Tyler. I appreciate your time and excited to have you.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it as well.
My pleasure. So let's start back with kind of maybe how you grew up, just a little bit of background there, and just kind of move through your life story and
Sure.
see where we go.
Sure, you got it. Born and raised in the Midwest. So I currently reside in Denver, and little known secret, Midwest winters are way worse than Colorado. So, any listeners from Chicago, Omaha, anywhere, it's just brutal, man. So born and raised there. My dad was a cop. And that matters because I don't know if you've heard the term pastor's kid or cop's kid, but I was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of tested the boundaries, and I was mischievous quite a bit, which I'd actually learned later might be a precursor for really great entrepreneurs. Same with ADHD, by the way.
I've actually felt the same way, honestly.
Yeah. It's like I just got bored, and it's like, oh, I'm going to steal stuff because I can. That was not a smart thing to do. So I was in high school and ended up in the back of a cop car and more, and diversion and all these things. And so that's now that I look back, I just apologize to my parents, but as luck would have it, I actually woke up and changed my ways, at least from that part of life. And fast forward,
when that happened, apologize to interrupt. When that happened, was it worse that your dad was a cop, or did it help? I mean, did he come down harder because it's your kid, or did it maybe help you not have maybe quite so difficult of a punishment?
It was more,
or neither.
For the initial, maybe it's my punishment with him was probably worse than the community service I had to do to get done with my diversion.
Yeah.
It wasn't a walk in the park. So I actually remember, one time as well, they sent letters out from our school because somebody had they'd done some things at homecoming. There were some gifts and stuff, and my friends and I were goofballs, may or may not have taken one. And so they couldn't figure out how to find who did it. And so they sent letters out to all the kids and all the parents in the school. It's like, hey, if your kid has one of these.
Oh, wow.
It was a fridge. It was a mini fridge.
A fridge?
Yeah. If they have one, we're missing one. So please just let us know. They were trying to bypass the kids. It's very smart.
Wow.
And my dad came up to me. He's like, hey, bud, how's that fridge working? Did all the jolly stuff.
Wow.
It's like, I got this interesting letter from the school. And I was like, I'm going to need to take that letter. And anyway, he made me pay for it and write him a letter and all this stuff. So, I was a pain in the butt kid, but I'm better now-ish.
Yeah, well, we learned our mistakes. Well, most of the time, hopefully.
Yeah. So I guess just fast forward, I actually ended up following his footsteps. I became a federal law enforcement officer, believe it or not.
Okay.
So
wow,
that worked for DHS, completely did a turnaround there. I would actually argue for anyone here, and I can speak on this because a couple of my buddies are cops here in Denver. One's a detective.
Uh-huh.
I think that the best cops have the best criminal minds. And to preface that,
I believe that.
One, there's really ignorant people in places of law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And we're, other people are laughing at them like, how did you not see what's in this pocket, man?
Yeah.
So, but then there's people like my buddies and I, where you pull somebody over now and you give them grace because you're like, within the guidelines.
Right.
I just think that those people make great
That's
cops.
I would, well, it's kind of the same thing as like, if you're going to deal with someone to help you, whether it's entrepreneurship or addiction or whatever,
Yeah.
the best person is going to be the person that's been through and done what you're looking to do. Same concept. And
That's
because
right.
you have that understanding, that empathy, and it's not that they're just dumbasses, and you know what I mean.
Yep.
So
No, you nailed it.
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. And so I mean, fast forward, turned out that wasn't for me, to be honest.
How many years were you a federal officer?
Consolidated. So I worked for two different federal agencies and then a military contracting firm. Like the military contracting a lot more than the I don't know what to call it. With respect, just a lot of chain of command. Like you're not getting
All the BS.
Yeah, well, there you go. So it's basically
Federal government.
U.S. politics with a badge. So
yeah,
it's yeah. So anyway, I guess a couple years in that, and then I did military contracting for only 1 year. Turns out they pay like 3 times more than government, and so less politics. Actually, zero politics. It was the opposite. So that was a dark time, but I learned a lot. And while
military industrial complex.
Yeah. So like while I was there, that's when I decided I was might be a good time to learn different skill sets. And I'd always had the silver tongue, is
Yeah,
what yeah. Both of my parents, good talkers. They're both type A's, no longer together. That happened to me more easily because there wasn't complementary, but both of them are successful business owners now and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, I have this work ethic because I grew up in the Midwest. And if anybody listening grew up in the Midwest or on a farm, like that's your life, you work. And then maybe you can hang out with friends if you're lucky. And so I had that. And basically,
that's when you're doing it, but it's a blessing once you're down the road, isn't it?
Yeah, no child will ever say, thanks, Dad. Thanks for not letting me go hang out with my friends and making me work.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it. I promise. I swear.
I'm the same way.
It's hardwired. I can't stop it. And I love that. So, so I taught myself SEO. And
no kidding.
The part I'm going to keep playing on purpose is my ops manager was arrested. Thought it would be a good time to get out of that industry. And so I'll leave that there.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a credit card, and I remember buying like this master class that I had seen on YouTube just to learn SEO. And I kid you not, I picked it up really quick.
How long ago was this?
Oh man,
10, 15 years or?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of the exact. Nuclear networking was started in 2010, so it was at least 12 years.
Wow.
Ago. Yeah. So it's been a little while, but so I learned, picked it up. I've always been computer savvy and again entrepreneurial, and I like the idea of exclusive knowledge. So go with me through this, but that mischievous mindset really plays well in marketing because I can deconstruct, or back to the investigative piece. I found all these pieces from my stupid younger life and then my law enforcement life where I'm like, I can see what competitors are doing online, and if I know what they're doing, I can do it better. I can win, and I have a highly competitive spirit. And winning makes people money. This is great, And so that's kind of the energy that I brought into doing this, and started out in the basement, nuclear networking with a couple of friends. And we were not in great spots. I'll just keep it at that. But like we started it out, bootstrapped it, and slowly grew that year over year over year. Ended up hitting Inc. 5000 and sold it to a private equity firm, and I'm still here today. So.
Wow,
that's kind of a quick version, I guess, on the back end, but yeah,
that's pretty sweet. So, because if I remember what I read right, I mean, within 5 years, you pushed it up to $5 million, didn't you?
Something like that. This would be pretty appropriate here, but I'll just for the listeners as well. The part I'm skipping in there is the massive amounts of pain, stress, likely the 10 years I took off my life, self-doubt, and then I'll also tell you, like I had borderline adrenal failure. And I think back in the medieval times, they'd call that like a mental breakdown. But chemically, I was so overstressed that my adrenals stopped functioning. I had brain fog, pretty radical thoughts, leave it at that. And I had to quit my career, stop everything for 2 years. and barely making rent, living with a buddy in his room. And yeah. And by the way, if you look up adrenal fatigue, there is no instant cure. Your adrenals either fail because we're in the West, and then they'll give you a replacement hormone therapy, or they're alive and you just got to kind of get through it until they get better. And so it was 2 years of hell.
Would you attribute that, like you said, due to the stress and things, but was that stress just what you allowed to go on your mind, as well as obviously, I imagine performing and, making sure your clients, you were, creating the success that you professed that you would. And I mean, there are a myriad of things I imagine, but what would you really tie that to?
Yep. So I would, I've done a lot of, they call it like shadow work. I'm not trying to get weird or anything, but like you go to different stuff. Like one of the things that I've done is a lot of soul work or shadow work. And one of the ways that I'm wired, and I'm thankful for it, but it's also, as you probably know, for the same, it's also my enemy. It's performance-based love, right? And so that makes sense in a relationship context.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, but with me, it's like, there's no stop. I'm either my old self, I'm never good enough. I got to keep working harder. I got to do A, B, and C, and I just got to keep go, 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 go. That eventually crashes. It turns out stress has like a really tangible cost. And a lot of people, oh, don't stress out. It'll kill you. Like, no, actually it can. Yeah. Genuinely, my adrenals shut down. Your organs will shut it. And I was in my 20s. Like, that's not something you should experience.
That's crazy. No kidding.
So
also, you took the time off. Did you just kind of get some help and try to relax? And I mean, just totally had to step away. But I also know with what you've said so far, we have very similar minds, I think. And it's very difficult to shut off, even as you pull away, isn't it? I mean, that's the hardest thing for me.
That's a phenomenal like little thing that you just said there, because here's like a gift I'd love to give to anybody listening. Most of my family, we have manic disorders, we have tons of addiction. People coming off of alcoholism will also experience adrenal fatigue. Like, look this up, because like you have brain fog, your dopamine levels are near nothing. You're not consuming massive amounts of sugars, which alcohol converts into sugars. And like, that's what I went through, just complete shutdown. So no, I wish it was just me sitting on the couch playing video games and having a great time. It was
debilitating to a degree. It sounds like
it was fighting demons, man, to be honest. Like, genuinely, I've not shared this on a podcast, but it was genuinely the hardest time in my entire life. I can thank my wife genuinely for helping me. We were just dating and I was a jerk, and you're chemically imbalanced, your cortisol's all over. I had flatlined on other hormones and like yourself in any way, right? And so I did seek help. I saw every doctor in the world. I went hypochondriac on it because that's how my brain's built. So that's kind of what that looked like. And I ended up through healthier eating, not coffee in the morning to wake up, drinking at night to go to bed, not that. Went to what, was a healthier lifestyle, and it took a second, but I came back and I changed after that experience. My mind changed, and I had kind of done nuclear before that. But after that, that's when you see that from 1 to 5 years, 5 million. I'm like, I never went to school for this. How is this possible?
It's unreal.
But yeah, it changed me. So for the better, thank God.
Yeah, well, I think that's really important. What you just said is, you didn't go to school for this. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, that should give anybody a ton of hope.
Totally.
You definitely, what's possible, the only thing that's not possible is what you believe is impossible. It's really what it comes down to.
I would even add extra, and I'm certainly, just to preface, I'm not an endocrinologist or scientist or anything like that, but I would even add, and I can speak from experience and people I love around me, the smartest, most brilliant people I know have highly addictive personalities and tendencies. And I went into an EEG and I got an EEG done. And for everybody here, it's a neurologist. You go in, you get electrical monitoring essentially done. I have highly abnormal rear cerebral electrical activity. I'm trying to repeat that correctly. And you know what cures that? You know what helps slow the mind down? You already do. It's not the good stuff. Now there is good stuff to help slow the mind down, but the easiest thing before you know that you are one of these people is like booze, weed, it's something.
Totally.
And it's like people seeking to slow their mind down, that should be a positive indicator. Maybe you're a little different. And if you are, your potential for success might be greater than the average person. I know it sounds weird, but it's like your biggest superpower can be your biggest poison if treated incorrectly or not handled right.
There
But
you
you
go.
get out of that life and create a multi-million-dollar life for yourself for something you never went to school for immediately.
Yeah,
How does that
exactly.
happen?
I remember there was a time in my life where I was aware I had a problem. I wanted to quit. And I had a friend who actually leased one of the offices in my building. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to go down that road anymore. And I
Yeah.
remember going to him, and it was kind of, as I look back on it years later, it was kind of the only way I knew to reach out at that time. This was late 90s. And so there wasn't as much information out there. I didn't really know any resource to get help. So I was just talking to him one day and said, yeah, just, I'm taking these pills and I just got to stop this. And I don't blame him because he had nothing to do with whether I did or didn't. But the response was basically, I don't see that as a problem because I look at what you're doing, look what you're creating, look at the people you're helping. And I was like, it's the last thing my brain needed to hear, but
Yeah.
it lends to what you were saying. It slows things down in a way. And, that's why it was such a difficult thing for me to get off, because my mind would tell me, well, I won't be as good at what I'm doing. Even my golf game, I worried about, could I play good golf, if I wasn't on pills? And it's really a crazy thing. And just, it really does. It, like you say, it just plays tricks on your brain. But anyway, so after you kind of went through that period, what would be one of the biggest takeaways from that experience looking back?
Man, I don't know. A couple of things, I guess. Like we all live in our own perspective, and so I'll just be really blunt.
We like on the show.
Sure, everybody has different belief systems and more. So nobody here, yours doesn't need to be mine. But I heavily, heavily relied on God.
Yep.
I didn't turn to religion. I grew up in that space. It wasn't super appealing to me. But I got to tell you, man, they have a saying, there's no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of funny, but like, man, when you're not wanting to be alive,
yep,
it's real. And when that lasts for 2 years, not a bad week, 2 years, it gets real. So what I am thankful for, if I had to go through that to be where I am now, I'm super happy that I did. And I've got other family that I love dearly. They're superheroes locked inside of a prison. And man, if I could help them avoid that journey and find the way to where I'm at right now, like I want to help them, but you already know you can't. Not until people are ready. You got to be ready, because we tell ourselves lies. Well, if I stop doing this, my life gets worse. Or if I stop taking these, then my life gets worse. And it's like maybe for a week or two, and
exactly.
That's genuinely a concern. There's help for that. Like there's genuinely help, but it's like what we learn about in business is what's called opportunity cost. By you not becoming the best version of yourself, how many years of happiness and money are you just throwing out the window that you could have had, but you're not? It's like you're robbing your future self of success and opportunity and relationships more than likely. And so those are the biggest takeaways for me. So I try to listen and figure out like what's going on, like something's not working. I guess doing a lot of introspective work, to talk about deep stuff quick and putting it out in front of you is helpful, because it's just that's what I've learned, I guess.
I mean, you know that to me, I think that's one of the biggest things that we have forgotten as a human species. For whatever reasons, we're not going to get into that, but that inner work is the key, because I believe we have superpowers, and I believe those come from God.
Yeah.
And, like you, I actually was trapped in a religion most of my life till about 3 years ago, to waking up to that,
Sure.
I'm in Mormonville. And I've learned some things that are mind-boggling, but I don't, they're not to me anymore. But when I went through two of the difficult things in my life, they were both, one was when my attorney came to me when I thought I was going to trial, and came to me on a Sunday morning when I was supposed to meet him the next day, to go over a big file I had given him. And he said, "You're meeting me downtown Salt Lake tonight, meet with the FBI.
Yikes.
To put out your police statement." And I had no idea what to do.
Yep.
I went to my parents and I prayed like I've never prayed in my life before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was ugly. Tears, snot. It was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to know somehow, some way, I didn't even consider whether it was possible or not.
Yeah.
But I had to know that was the right thing under the circumstances, because I was not okay saying I did something that I didn't do, that's going to be with me for life, but I also know how the system worked at this point. I had done enough research to know what I'd be facing and the odds of winning are. And that was the most difficult pill to swallow. And I'll never forget leaving one night after rehab. I did outpatient. My family could come on one night a week on Thursdays, and my parents came and my wife always came, and I wasn't praying a lot, and I remember my dad, for some reason, we got talking about that as we left the building to walk to our cars, and he was very focused on religion, but at this point, that's not what the topic was. It was just prayer, basically. And it's like, are you ask for any help or anything? And I was like, no, why would someone like me get any help, And I'll never forget him saying, whether those listening or not believe in this, that's your choice. This isn't about religion. It's more about spirituality, about connection. It's about, God. And he said, he's never going to not be there for you, And when I thought of it, the way he said it, and based on what we talked about, and then from a perspective as a dad now, in life, like there's nothing my kid couldn't do that if he came to me, I wouldn't be there for him,
Yep.
And we have no concept of the love that I believe our God has for us, So, if you're struggling out there and you feel like there's no hope, you don't know what to do, I would really consider that, because that exactly is what got me through some of the most darkest times in my life as well.
Do you care if I add to that?
No, please do.
So I work in tech. We develop AI. I live in a state that is less focused on God than other states. I meet a lot of really quality, highly intelligent people.
Uh-huh.
And if the topic ever comes up, they are blown away that I would believe in God. God, G-O-D, Grand Organized Designer. That's how I like to put it.
That's awesome.
I would say is, one, for any scientist listening, I'm not even going to go into this because there's plenty of material, or marketers for that matter. You cannot cut something out of possibility unless it's proven otherwise. And I know somebody might say, well, you can't prove the existence or yes or no. There are a lot of things in life that I can't see, but I can prove based on the outcome or the fruit in my life that's produced by those things. Yep. So that's one. But for two, to just ignorantly shut off an entire possibility until proven otherwise, that is not science. That's ignorance.
That's exactly right.
Just throwing that out there for those who claim to have that stance, because I've been there mentally. I have a lot of friends that are mentally, no, I believe in science. I'm like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You do history on science. We used to think putting lead in gas was like, we've been wrong a lot. And actually science in its form is testing hypothesis and like trying to prove facts. And yeah, to just shut the door on an entire subset of data that you can test, well, now you're blind to an opportunity. So that's more, I don't know. I just don't believe that that's fully science, and you don't need to believe that, but I would certainly encourage anyone, look at all opportunities genuinely. If you're really serious about it, I'm not worried about the outcome. I'm not here, like you said, I'm not here to convert anybody. I don't need to do that, but like, look at all opportunities. It'll work itself out. That I have faith in.
Yeah,
So
just change, if you need to, even just change, your definition of a God. If you want to focus on source, focus on it just being energy, whatever you want. Just there's something, I agree with. Don't get hung up on the things you're talking about, because there's something to this whole thing. And, I choose it to be God, but if you're struggling and don't believe in that, I'd say just pay attention to some things and ask yourself, one of the big things I think we're struggling with in the world, because I believe right now we're in a time of spiritual war personally. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but
strong.
it's a huge, huge, massive war that's raging right now. And, I think it's a time of a reawakening,
Yeah.
And I actually just lost my total train of thought, but it's, it's just a time where, that's what it was. One of the things that I would challenge people to do is ask yourself the question, why do you believe what you believe? Because I think we get so caught up in this, whatever you want to call it, matrix, whatever, our beliefs come from our experience growing up, and we all have different experiences, because there's days I used to think, well, how can that, person be so different and think the way they do? To me, it makes zero sense.
Right.
But that's the things they've been exposed to. Doesn't mean anyone's right or wrong, and I think that we've lost a lot of ability in this world to critically think,
It's highly segmented, and that is intentional. And coming
100%.
from military contracting in war strategy, I would also encourage people to look into those things, because there's a lot of alignment there. I mean, governments aren't new. There's nothing new under the sun. The Romans did it. I mean, like there really isn't.
So true.
I agree with you, and it's kind of weird, because initially it's painted as left and right here in the States, or this or that. It has nothing to do with that. There's evil people on both sides.
That's bottom line. We're all pretty much the same. That's a design to keep us from
we're
uniting.
products of our own environment, and having willingness to learn somebody else's perspective. It's like, man, you can meet in that bridge. Shut the news off. Like, go meet somebody.
Amen.
What I was told was, like, if you have somebody who you gravely disagree with, or a group of people or anything, get in close. Go have dinner at their house with their family and listen. And hopefully they do the same to you. It's not the rule of reciprocity. You're not expecting anything in return, but growing your perspective is super important. Whether that be people, God, anything, it's important. It's how you grow, because if you don't do that and you're just linear and you're in this little channel, that's all you'll ever be. And ego can't understand anything greater than itself. So it's like, do you want to be the best version of yourself or not? Like, try things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and that spills right over, to business and entrepreneurship. I mean, if you're not going to be willing to, consider different options, if you're getting the same results over and over, and you're just going to stay there, you're not getting anything different, And so you maybe don't know everything. You maybe, one thing is, we cannot see what we cannot see. So getting other perspective it's so valuable.
Yep. That's the same as, it's a really interesting alignment, but I mean, it's the same as therapy or AA or a coach. Marketing is the same. It's like, if you don't feel confident that you can do something on your own, if you could have, you would have already. Yes. I think it's also pretty important, because I have met a lot of people. Read between the lines. I'm kind of speaking to both sides, not just marketers or business owners, but also people in their walk right now that they want to change. I hear a lot of lofty goals. Man, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to stop doing that. Someday, it's like, if you could have done it alone, you would have. And you got to accept that. Go get some help. And that doesn't mean that you're a victim. It actually means that you could actually surround yourself with a tribe, because what happens, whether you're doing poorly in business or in life, or you have something that you're shameful of, we tend to isolate. And that is the worst thing possible. And if you look at like predators, I know this is a strange deviation, but
no, I think it's good though.
Predators do not attack herds. They wait for isolation.
That's right.
When you are isolated, you are the most vulnerable. You are alone. and you tell yourself stories you actually start believing. And chemicals don't help that either. So it's like, that's important. Related to marketing, trust other perspectives, at least gather them. It's worth A/B testing. Like that's what we always say in marketing. It's like, what offer would work better, a free consultation or a $25 gift card? I don't know.
Exactly.
Try both because you should. And so, yeah, a lot of applications.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I'll tell a real life story when it comes to that in marketing. One of my businesses, my boys work with me and we were focused on really getting a lot of more Google reviews. And so we were calling and talking to customers and asking them and even walking them through the process, even sending them a link right there on the spot, and it was like pulling teeth, man.
Yeah.
And we were like 41 reviews, and this was just like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And we've got a software that we have, and so we put together an automated campaign that when a new customer comes through the system, it automatically triggers a specific message. And at first, just like you're saying, we were getting reviews, but not written, just clicking the 5 stars and that's it. And the importance of some words is key. And so we just played around with that message and the offer, to incentivize them. And in fact, I checked last week and we're like 871 reviews.
Nice.
And they come in just like clockwork,
Yep.
And had we not done testing, we'd just been sitting there putting along and,
Yep.
So what are some of the things that maybe you've run into that business owners, entrepreneurs, struggle with, that, your background and expertise would really help people see the importance of some of the things that you really are an expert at?
Sure. So to qualify as well, my expertise has been gained through real life experience.
Yes.
As I've gotten into becoming a marketer, referencing the beginning of this conversation where I was like, I didn't even go to school for this. I have done multiple—
Way more than school.
Yeah. I've done multiple MBAs worth of life experience and learning this. And if you're in something like SEO and AI, this stuff will be different next week. So
that's what's hard. Yes. Just staying on top of it.
It is. I'll give this from both perspectives, and I will give quality data for the listeners. I'm going to start backwards. Here's my perspective, because I work with a lot of companies, many of which trust us. Right now, that's Nuclear Networking. Fill in your marketing company here. But they trust us. And initially, when we're meeting, it's, I know this is all you do for a living. You guys have all the access to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of data and licensing I could never afford. You have an entire department for ads, SEO, production, web design.
Yeah.
By the way, for any business owner, you cannot hire that expertise in-house for cheaper than you can outsource to an agency.
Amen. No kidding.
You cannot do it. So they come there, and it's typically an exciting moment. And you walk through scope and education, because everyone has different walks of life. If you're an expert roofer, I don't expect you to know what a meta tag is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So finding ways to digest and meet each other in the middle. I do have knowledge and we have expertise in areas that you don't. And that's why we're going to be great partners. Just as if you were building a home, you don't know how to do electrical, you're going to hire an electrician and you trust that electrician.
Yep.
Problem with the mind is the A/B testing piece we talked about. People will start marketing instantly. Some of that conversation might, in year one out the other. Same for me on certain topics in life. And then it's, man, I invested and it didn't work immediately. Something must be wrong. It must be the person. And I have no other idea where that approach works anywhere else in life. Even print and TV. You cannot force humans to buy anything. If I go into the gym and I lift one time and I'm like, oh, I'm not perfectly in shape, this didn't work.
Yeah.
Like nothing like that. You know this too. Even if it's recovery, if it's anything, things take time, especially those worth waiting for. And if you have partners that are willing to provide you data to tell you the why, because I do want to draw a line here. It's not okay if companies are like, I don't know, just trust the process. That's right. Lewis, why don't you give me some education? Because education cures anxiety. So I have seen, we would do A/B tests or develop an offer for some people. And just for the listeners, there's a lot of different types of marketing, right? There's SEO, there's paid advertising. I call those traffic driving activities.
Yeah.
I could drive all the traffic to the world to a closed business, but if the doors don't open, it works. So traffic doesn't solve everything, or your website might be not great.
Yeah.
And people come to it and they're like, I don't trust this guy. I'm going to go to the competitor down the street. So there's variables we can't control, but we can drive traffic. On a bigger scale, you can do offer generation and like, why is your business better than the thousands of other businesses in your local area? You got to be able to tell me that in 15 seconds or less.
Okay, man. Yes.
And it's not like, hey, I'll come give you a free quote on your roof. Everyone does that. What you're actually saying is, let me tell you how much I charge you. Here's what you give me. That doesn't give me value unless I'm like looking at if I got water coming through, maybe. But so what we try to get people to think of, this is more the value side of it, less of me complaining. But it's like, think about, what am I willing to offer these individuals to pierce through all the noise? Because we all know we get advertised to a bazillion times a day. What's really going to grab them and go, whoa, I would love a $50 Starbucks gift card. That's pretty steep. I'll give these guys like, they're not going to find you anyway unless they're looking for a new roof or whatever it is you're selling. Depending on marketing companies advertising you, but it's like thinking outside the box on those types of things. I'm just giving you really simple ideas. A/B testing with individual users, and do not give up after the first, the gift card didn't work. It must be the company's fault. And here's what's going to happen. I know that sounds selfish. Like, hey, we want to keep your business. You're going to continue repeating it with the next 12 agencies. It's not going away. Your business is the thing that needs solved. Driving traffic is proven. There's experts for that.
Hey, man, I can speak to what you're saying as a person that's been that person you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, if you don't give them a chance, assuming you've got the right company, that understands how to look at things and make the adjustments, you're gonna do exactly what you said. I mean, because I've done it. You have to, once you make that decision, you got to give yourself enough time, for sure, for them to get manifest the fruit for you. You know?
And ask your company too, right? Like, that's to give yourself grace. You shouldn't have to guess how much time is this.
Exactly.
Ask them. And if they are actually like, you know what, man, I don't know, shop around. Because what we tell people, it depends on what products. If they're doing paid ads and they're doing a funnel, I can have you answers in 3 months or less. Guaranteed. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't. Only do more of this. Don't do any of that. Done. If it's SEO only, depends on what industry you're in. If it's personal injury, that's a year.
Yeah.
Why would I invest in SEO for a year? Well, because you're paying $50 a click. That gets really expensive really quick. So, I mean, it's like, it really is catered, but your partners should at least know the why and be able to guide you through that unfamiliar space. And then it's up to you to trust them, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add to that, like I said, because I'm the guy that's been through some of the stuff you're talking about.
Sure.
And, there's so many marketers out there in today's world too. So, do your due diligence on several and, do an interview, whatever you need to do, ask if you can talk to some of their clientele, and really do your homework, because when you find somebody like Tyler and his company he's got, they're going to be worth everything that you pay them, because you have to have leads in business.
Yeah.
But then you also have to have the things like you mentioned earlier, you can drive all the leads to a business that they want and more, but if they don't have the personnel in place that can take care of and close those leads, then they're going to fail, So it's very important to get the right people. And it's, don't just go get the one guy the first guy you talk to and
sure. Or your cousin.
Because he's the cheapest, Yeah, exactly.
I have a lot of like, my sister started doing SEO. We're going to fire you. I'm like, that's totally fine. Come back whenever you need help. But also,
right.
as you stop link building and doing this, your rankings are going to tank. And what is that really going to cost you as a business to gamble on that? So that's a little spooky, but just to give everybody grace too, it's like, it's scary, right? It's like, man, I'm paying for something I can't see. I don't know if it's working. I totally get that, but trust is so key, and budgeting. So if they can say, hey,
that's what I was going to say,
6 months, do that in your head. Like, worst case scenario, I'm going to spend this amount of money, 60 grand, I'm making it up, to learn what works and what doesn't for my company. You know what else costs 60 grand? An employee. like
Yeah.
for a year. So if you can learn with 10 different people on your account in 3 months what it might take you to learn in a year, and hope that one person you hire knows everything, I'd say that's a win. Because you got
Yeah,
to
no kidding.
right. There's no other options. That's a whole other thing. It's like, what else are you going to do to grow your company?
Yeah.
Radio, television. There's a couple other channels. How are you going to measure that?
Yeah. If that
8-year-old.
talk about taking a long time and a lot of money, that has to be consistent as hell for a long time.
It is, yeah. So it's odd, but it's influencing people. That's really what marketing is. And if we can get that special message in front of your exact audience, and they receive it and they come to your home to see what you're all about, it's our job to make sure the home is clean, right? We work together
Yeah.
and we have fresh cookies, and they're here to stay. So yeah.
That's great. What's the maybe the number one thing that business ownership has given you?
Business ownership,
Besides the stress and the trials, because there's
Yeah, I
a lot
know.
of that too.
besides the school hard knocks, was
Yeah.
look, like yeah. I mean, a lot of people see that, and I recognize, even with influencers and more on YouTube. And I am certainly, I'm doing what I'm doing. There are Gary V's, there are people
Yeah.
much more successful, right? But it's not. I'd say one thing I would try to learn to rewire your mind to fall in love with the journey, not the gold medal at the end that you perceive.
To me, that is the best.
That's like your gold medal. The moment you get whatever you thought you wanted 2 years ago, it's like, oh,
That's fantastic.
that thing, Johnny.
Yeah.
The problem with that is, even if you win all the gold medals, eventually you won't. Somebody else will be better than you. But also, it's not. That's not. It doesn't last as long. You'll work yourself to death trying to chase something and never be happy. And you can. I've listened to a lot of podcasts as well. Billionaires, many of them, not really. They don't have true joy, and it's like
Exactly.
sacrifice everything for money, and it's not enough. But if you fall in love with work ethic, man, I sound like my dad, but like genuine,
So true.
constant improvement, that money will come. It's going to come, but you can actually wake up and enjoy what you do every day. And if you need impact work in a secondary, like right now, I serve on impact boards. I don't get paid for doing that, but I'm translating my business knowledge, my pain, all this stuff I've learned to people, so they don't have to repeat the same steps. And they're helping people, so I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
that's that goes to giving back, which I think, not to get off on a tangent or weird to maybe some people, but there's nothing but positive that can come out of when you serve and give back.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call it karma, you want to call it energy, whatever you want to associate it to.
Yeah.
It's true. Or you can sit and not do any of that stuff and be just grinding your business, like you say, and focused on the prize and kind of be miserable. And then you're going to be living basically in scarcity most of the time anyway. And
That's right.
You're just going to be miserable, and you're going to fight. It's going to be hell to even get the success you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think you've outlined exactly to me some of the biggest keys to finding success. And like you say, money isn't going to make you happy. Yes, I like to say money puts a good down payment on happiness,
Sure.
but because obviously if you have money struggles, then yes, life is tough. Life's already tough. But if you're struggling financially, then it's a hell of a lot tougher. And so we all need it. And there's nothing wrong with making a whole ton of it, because all it's going to do is magnify the person that you are. If you're a jackass, you're going to be a big jackass,
Yeah. Yep.
At least that's what I believe. But
that's funny, man. Crashing Ferraris downtown somewhere instead of helping hungry people,
Exactly.
So yeah.
When it comes down to it, as we were talking earlier about some of these things with the world and whatever, to me, we just need more grace, like you said, and more love in this world,
Yeah.
And if you're out there struggling, it doesn't matter if it's addiction, it doesn't matter if you're facing legal problems, it doesn't matter if you're, overeating, a porn addict, doesn't matter what the issue is.
Yep.
You need to give yourself grace. You need to stop shaming yourself.
Right.
And, you need to just decide that you're willing to move forward and quit beating yourself up. Where I struggled for so long after I got out of prison is, I was my own worst enemy. I was letting my past get in the way of my future.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, that isn't ever going to work,
No.
and it's not easy, but it's sure as hell worth it,
Yeah. It's yeah, and by the way, I don't mean to Bible beat or anything, but like something that stuck with me was like shame is not from God.
Not at all.
So it's like, why are you focusing on something that's not giving you life? You cannot change it. You can be better. Stop. Like stop voluntarily drinking that poison every day. It's
Yep.
just not, you're robbing yourself, or something else is robbing you, but it's like you're robbing yourself of your future potential. And that's kind of the thing that I keep trying to remember. And by the way, it's easy to talk about. Here's the right thing to do. I still struggle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah, it's a constant struggle, but at least if you can be aware, I found a group here of guys, and it's cool. It's very eclectic, from older men all the way down to younger men, everybody in between, kids, no kids, divorced 8 times, never married, all the things. And people meet like a couple times a month and just dive into the darkest struggles we've had, try to support each other, like that kind of stuff. But if you get comfortable bringing that stuff out to the
That's
open,
powerful.
it gets easier to deal with. It's like, oh yeah, no, I can tell you,
So
here's where I messed up and here's where I fail, and that's why I stay away from X, Y, or Z, or do this instead, and easy. It's like it gets a lot better, and it kills that shame for sure. So
absolutely. It's like, releasing that is just like, the truth will set you free, letting go of those things is
Yeah.
the same really concept. It's, and it's crazy once you do, how many people have fought and are fighting the same thing. It's like
totally.
we all have it, we just believe that what we see out of that person or this person, especially on social media, that's the last place you should be comparing yourself. But in life, your neighbor next door, it might appear that they have the perfect life and family. I'm telling you, you don't know. And most people don't. Life's a bitch, And so the last thing we should ever be doing is, comparing ourselves to others and sitting there and just shaming yourself to death and, hanging on to the guilt and all that. But anyway, is there any last words you'd like to leave, Tyler? I think this has been great,
Sure. Yeah, me too, man. It's 2, I guess. One is just a quick quote that I really love, and that's from Jordan Peterson, and he says, "Treat yourself as if you." What would he say? Man, now I'm butchering it. I'll look it up real quick. I need, like, Joe Rogan has his little guy over there.
Yeah, exactly. Feeding you everything.
Yeah, essentially, it's treat yourself as if you were responsible. If you were someone else you were responsible for taking care of. So it's like when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we don't care at all. I put myself second, but it's like, if you were responsible for taking care of yourself and you're 2 people, how would you treat yourself different? And look up the quote. You guys will love it. It's better than what I said. But
I'll find it and put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's a powerful perspective, man.
It is. It's just interesting and simple, but we usually serve ourselves last.
So true.
A lot of people hate themselves. And so it's like, man, change that perspective, treat yourself better, watch your life get better. Genuine.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome. Well, folks, I'll have all your information where people can reach out to you. You can go to nuclearnetworking.com and get a free competitive deconstruct free marketing discovery and strategy call with the folks there, and see what they can do to help you out. And like I said, I'll put some of your other stuff on the show notes, as far as I think I've got your LinkedIn and whatnot. So we'll put that in there if you want to reach out and see how Tyler can help you. I would recommend it because he obviously has been around the block and has a very good knowledge of business and marketing, but also in life, and I think, the best people to learn from are the people that have, accomplish what you're looking to.
Yeah. So, feel free to mention too in any form, if you do go the website route, this podcast, I'll talk to you directly. So
awesome. Okay.
The company's bigger than I am.
That's great.
So it's like, definitely mention it, and I'm happy to chat. And,
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. Well, thanks again for your time, and have a fantastic afternoon. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
See ya.